Thank you, Judge, for your presentation so far. You had said that the time between kind of entering the system and exiting that whole process is around 182 days for resolution for most cases?
Correct.
Okay. And with that, what is usually the reason for that day? Does that look pretty average for a court system, especially like New Mexico? How has you seen that time frame during your tenure?
We haven't really had difficulty meeting it. Is that your question?
Well, I'm wondering, for efficiency's sake, and I know everybody wants to see resolution when things happen, and if a crime does occur, I'm sure it's, peace of mind for those that have been affected on either side, that these things are done with that efficient manner. And so I'm curious on where we range as far as, does this look like a good time? Have you been able to kind of become more efficient with that process? What does that look like when you have the use of alternative judges? Does that help alleviate time frame? And now we have an alternate judge as well. And so I'm curious to see if that's all working together to make a more efficient system.
We don't have any trouble meeting the 182 days, other than that period of the first 15 months where we were doing things virtually, and people who were demanding in-person trials.
What do you say is the average?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, if you look at the life cycle of a case, most cases settle at pretrial hearing, and that is usually within maybe the 2 months of arraignment. And so that's a plea bargain, basically. And the person knows what they're getting, the prosecutor knows what they're getting, nobody gets 100%, but they get certainty. And there's a lot of benefits to settling at pretrial, and we generally do.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then the next question is to follow up with that of use of alternates versus use of your other judge. How is that going so far? What does that caseload look like to see, that process?
To my knowledge, Judge Streeter's planning to resign. I thought it was going to be because she was going back to district court. But when we had the conversations, she said, I really want to be home with my kids. She has a 3-month-old infant and 3 other children, and I totally understand it, but she also has very fixed times during the day, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, when she has to pump breast milk, and that is just not conducive with the schedule we set up for hearings. It takes her about 30 minutes, and she said it's absolutely inflexible. So I'm just covering everything for now.
Ma'am, that seems like an HR issue.
A what? An HR issue?
Yes, Councilor.
I mean, so I had set up a
I'm going to move on to a different line of questioning.
Okay.
Thank you. With that in mind, what modernization have you taken during your tenure for changes with the municipal court, including perhaps computer systems that might be needed?
I would say probably the best thing is, after conversation with the director of the Doña Ana County Detention Center, we started sending out texts to defendants to remind them of their hearings and due dates for payments. It costs us 20 cents per text, but we've only been doing it for about 6 months, so we don't really have the data. And the other problem is, like, homeless folks often don't have a phone.
Okay. Regarding the building, obviously we saw some statewide issues that had significant security, not only with any elected officials, things like that. May you talk about the security that you have within the facility, any changes that have been made, including things like parking lot structures?
Well, we always have a security guard in the courtroom with anybody who is hearing cases in the courtroom. And we have a security guard at the door. Occasionally, the firm that provides them. We'll provide additional guards if we request them.
The use of cameras?
I'm sorry?
The use of cameras within the system, if you have them around the parking lot structure. I knew that they were there in the past, that the city has paid for that.
We have some cameras that are in the parking lot. We're looking into getting them. Kind of around
I was told that there were some. Are they not there anymore?
No, they are in the parking lot, but not where people come into the building or the sides of the building, and we're a little concerned about that.
The municipal judge, 1, shall be present and shall preside at municipal court for at least 40 hours per week, unless absent for annual leave, sick leave, or in attendance at a municipal judge's conference. And so I know you've been a frequent attendee here at all of our council meetings. I'm sure that eats up at the 40 hours, and I'm curious to see if there's other times, because I know like the time here doesn't count as because you're not presiding over the court. So I'm curious to see how all that stuff would be integrated together.
Not sure I understand your question. We don't have dockets on Monday afternoons. And if I have like a doctor's appointment or something, we have an alternate, but I guess I'm not understanding your question.
No, I'm just curious to see if there would be an amendment that is needed for specialty courts so that you can preside over theirs, because our ordinance is pretty specific of just presiding over the municipal court.
It would be helpful.
Okay. And then when it does say this item about shall be present and preside at municipal court for at least 40 hours a week, does that mean present in the building for that amount of time?
I take it to be when the court hours are. I mean, our court's open from 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday, and we close at 12:30 on Fridays.
And you're able to adhere to the 40 hours?
Yeah, I also have to work on Sunday mornings for probable cause hearings, so yeah.
Okay. Mayor, that's all my